Is it live now?
I believe we are live now, but we're also... Hey, go-getters, welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit and our Sunday sit-down, where we go live every week to discuss the big ideas you need to grow yourself, your business, and your impact. Hey, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Katie.
Listen, we got a big one here for you today. We were discussing over the week, doing everything we're doing about this idea of... We're hearing a lot of buzz around the internet and everything going on around, hey, listen, you got to live in the present moment. You got to live in the moment. You got to be here right where it's happening. And we were thinking, how is that in juxtaposition, or is that any conflict with what we often focus on about creating a vision and going after your future goals? And how does all that come together? So if that's an interesting topic and you want to be sure to stay connected to topics just like this, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, follow us anywhere you're watching this, and obviously if you're on YouTube, hit that bell to be notified of any future content. So Katie, how are we going to navigate this whole space today?
Well, so I was, as usual, reading this book.
You're reading a book.
I was reading a book. And so the book that I was reading this week, I'll show you because I brought it down. It's called Power versus Force, The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior by David Hawkins, MD, PhD. Very impressive. Lots of titles.
Lots of titles.
Okay, so this book is very dense, and I can get through like 5 pages at a time. I'm serious. But one of the things that this guy's talking about is he was a psychiatrist and a medical doctor who was helping people who were super, super suffering. And what he did, this is the very short idea because I'm not really even that far into the book, but what he has done, he's helped people live in the present moment instead of being stuck in their past or being like super worried and having such high anxiety about the future. And that living in the present basically cures all their problems. That's what I'm getting from this. It's what an idea.
It's an idea worth exploring to see if there's truth there.
Yeah, so he says this thing. Just to tee this up a little more, I'm confused. So I'm here today to explain a couple things about why I'm confused. Okay, listen, here it is. Okay.
Sorry, I'm fixing an internet thing right now.
So
continue.
He says, for it's only the illusion of individuality that is the origin of all suffering. Individuality being the self. When one realizes that one is the universe, complete and at one with all that is, forever without end, then no future suffering is possible. What this is suggesting is that losing your grip on your personal self, the ego, and recognizing that we are all together and you are full just as you are, that's going to cure your suffering. And this idea came up again to me. I was listening to a podcast, again, as usual, reading a book and listening to a podcast.
Hey, we're goal-getters. That's how we do.
And the guest on the podcast was this woman named Byron Katie. And so she tells this story about how she was just dead on the floor, depressed, agoraphobic, addicted to food, addicted to alcohol, addicted to drugs. And so she's like 43 and a mother of 3 at the time. She's basically just catatonic on the ground. And she's she's sleeping and she wakes up one day because a cockroach has run over her foot.
Sounds
Yes.
lovely.
And it slightly wakes her up, and she realizes that she has this sense that she is nothing. She has no self. She has no identity. And that wakes her up to the fact that she is not herself. Are you confused? Okay. So this
I
idea,
know Byron Katie, and I know her work, literally the work. So I appreciate her.
She seems excellent. But
Yes.
this is an idea about how releasing your ego and releasing your grip on who it is to be the self or the ego, and letting go of the visions of who you are in the future, as well as who you think you are in the past, living in both the past and the future instead of the present moment, which is the cause of all suffering.
So I have to pause there for a moment, and I have to give you some roaring applause for probably confusing most people, including me, with that. But that's actually the purpose and reason we're talking about this, because this whole landscape can be extraordinarily confusing. There's lots of lingo and words in this spiritual personal development space of the ego and the present moment. And what we really want to drill down to today is this, guys. Will any of this stuff help you achieve your goals? Will any of this living in the present moment and non-self or relinquishing your ego, all the stuff we hear from the spiritual space or the woo space, whatever you want to call it, is any of that real talk? Is that going to help you achieve your goals, your dreams, and bring your life closer to where you want it to be? And that's, we wanted to have a dialogue on that. So,
hold on. Just a little more background. So let's talk about Patrick for a minute.
Ooh, let's talk about me.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
you, I think, are a great person to speak on this topic.
Yes.
Okay, if you didn't know, Patrick has a master's degree in clinical psychology.
I'm fancy in that
And
way.
his area of focus was always based on happiness. And
Yes.
he has a huge background studying for over a decade of lots of spiritual practices, Buddhism, other psychologists,
Meditation, the
and
whole
meditation,
yeah.
and all of that. And if you didn't know, those spiritual practices are often focused very much on living in the present. So when I had these questions, I thought, luckily he's my husband and he lives with me.
Yes.
And he seems to be an expert on this topic. So the question, like you were saying, the question is, how do we balance living in the present moment and sort of easing up on our ego when we are working together to help people set goals and achieve them, and all those things happen in the future? So how can we balance focusing on the future while still living in the present?
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges that we wanted to call out today, is that they seem to be fighting each other. They seem to be completely juxtaposed to each other. And it's like, well, if I'm living in the... So here's kind of the skeptic on this. Just to play devil's advocate. If I'm in the past, I can't create my future from my past. The past is dead, right? Let the dead past bury its dead. And it's gone. We can't get it back. This moment is right now, right here. Like it's literally as we're creating this, like in the story of my life, it says, and Patrick or Katie were sitting there, and then Patrick started talking, and he moved his hand from the left to the right, and he's like, it's happening, it's being written right now in this living moment. And then there's this beautiful future that awaits that's not going to come by itself. And I think a lot of you watching might agree with that. In fact, if you do, jump into the comments, let us know what your thoughts are on this, because we want this to be a discussion, not just us kind of talking at you. And we always respond to all comments, by the way. So then how do we do this? How do we navigate this? So we've got a couple of different major things we want to talk about, some different aspects of some topics we want to explore. So where should we begin with this? Katie, do you have any ideas? And we're getting our scuba gear on. We're going to the deep end here.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is something that keeps me from living in the present is my worry about the future. And
okay, hold on. Well, let's pause there. Can you say that one more time? I think that's a big one.
One of the main things that keeps me from living in the present is worrying about the future. For example, if I have some kind of meeting or something coming up, I could be sitting here with you or having dinner with my kids or reading a book to my kid, a very enjoyable, try to be in the moment type of situation. And my mind is living on Tuesday, and I'm already there, and I'm already having a fight.
Yeah.
And I'm already creating what's that person saying back to me. So a future worry is something that I think is worth exploring, and it definitely keeps us from living in the present.
Yes. So let's start off with that concept. So I'm going to skip to the end of the story, and then we'll kind of work our way backwards a little bit. So I have my fancy notes here, and I'm going to read a quote to you. Okay, this one's from Mr. Soren Kierkegaard. If you have no idea who Kierkegaard is, he's a Swedish philosopher from Sweden, a long time ago. Here's the quote. Dig into this one. Ready? This is gold. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. And I think I love this for two main reasons. One, it kind of cuts right through it, is that we need our past. There's so many gold nuggets and wisdom. There's wisdom in our past. Mm-hmm. And if we go forward without that wisdom of the past, we're going to make the same mistakes. We're going to make the same errors. We're going to be stuck in the same hamster we've done for years and years and years, because all that beautiful insight that we've gained through the bumps and the bruises and the pain and the struggle to get where we want to be, we've got to bring that with us. We've got to bring it with us. I think we also need to change how we look at the past, because a lot of us use the past like a club. We're beating ourselves with it. And that's not how to wisely, from an awakened perspective, to use the past. We need to see the past as a teacher and extract those main lessons from what we've learned and experienced, and it's just a wealth of knowledge. So when Kierkegaard says life must be understood backwards, I wholeheartedly agree with him. Do you want to add anything? Because there's the second part of the quote that I want to get to, but do you want to add anything to that?
So it's one thing, the good part of our past is that we can take our wisdom and use it as a guide for our future. But what we shouldn't do is take our past experiences and decide that they are true for the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. So let's say I'm trying to get a new job. Mm-hmm. I've interviewed for like 3, 4, 5 jobs, and I haven't gotten the job. So I might make the conclusion that will never get a job, because that's what I've learned about my past. Mm-hmm. But we have to say, that's not who I am. I don't get a job. I am just a person who didn't get this job. That doesn't mean there's no job for me in the future. And so I can't tattoo it on my identity.
Ooh, I like that phrase.
It's just an idea. And it's just a thing that happened. So when you said the thing about burying the past in the past, or whatever you said.
Or the dead past period's dead. It's a quote from a poem.
Okay. Put that there. Leave that there. And then understand that you are not your past, but things that you've learned from the past. For example, getting better at interviews every time you did one. Mm-hmm. So what's the gift that I can get from the past? Getting better at interviews. Yeah. What's the thing I can leave in the past? I don't get jobs.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about myself.
No,
I have a job.
We all have both. I think a lot of the people watching right now, we've all been through this human experience. So bringing it back to the present, pun intended. All right, so now we've got this idea that the past is wisely, from an awakened perspective, best used, not as a club to hurt ourselves or beat ourselves with or anything like that, but it's just used as lessons, insights, and learning, to help navigate our future decisions. So then we come down to future decisions. Okay, so the second part of the quote, and just because I don't want to mess this up. So life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Now, I love this idea of living it forward. So now we're getting into the future. Now we're getting into what you and I call life by design instead of a life by default. This is where human creativity comes in. This is where innovation comes in. This is where imagining or deep imagining and visions and visioning state, all these all you goal-getters out there, you know this. You don't need me to tell you that. There is incredible power in the human race to create something from scratch. I might even go so far as to say that creativity is in our DNA. It's what we're made for. Only humans have this ability to look at something that isn't there and imagine it and create it from scratch. And then we look at this thing that we've made and it's like, wow. This was nothing. This was just atoms of potentiality. And through will and imagination and action, bold action, and consistently never giving up, we were able to birth this thing into the world. And I think that's incredible. So to deny that ability that we have. For some, like, okay, well, let's not think of the future. The future isn't here. Let's just only live. That's to me. That's where I think the teaching gets wrong. Is only live in the moment. That's where I think we can maybe misuse this concept of living in the present moment. But you guys tell me, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think we're on to something? We're completely off. Like, Patrick, you don't understand. Katie, you understand? This is how you need to look at it. Let us know in the comments below. But Katie, do you have any further thoughts on that?
Well, you said something really important, and that's living a life by design instead of a life by default. And I love that so much because it says, I don't just let things happen to me, I make things happen.
Yes.
And I love the idea of making things happen. I love the idea of changing my mindset and changing my skills and making things happen as a result of that. Resolving things from my past and changing my future.
I love it.
And we talk a lot about business stuff and success, and if you can do that and you can have that perspective while you're, say, you maybe moving towards some business goals or whatever you're doing, that is vital. To know that you can make things happen, but you got to believe it. And I'll tell you, it's true.
Yes.
So believe me, believe him, believe everybody else, but know that for you, it's possible for you to make things happen. It just isn't life just happening to you. You're not just tumbling down a hill. You can take control of your present. You can change things. You can change your habits. You can change your skills. And then that will change the projection of your future. So I guess then, if we can change who we are now in the present by just what we do all the time in the present moment, we are necessarily changing the future.
Yes, so that's really what this comes down to is, will living in the present moment help you achieve your future goals? That's kind of the question. We're just kind of leaving it out there in the ether, and I'm personally ready to make a conclusion on this. But I think we need to go just a little further before we land this plane, and that is, what on earth can being in the present moment even do for you? Like, we talk about the past as a great teacher, the future, designing it, creating it, so juicy and great. But so why on earth, and I say this, playing devil's advocate, why on earth would I want to sit here in this lousy present moment where nothing's being created? I'm just like dwelling in the moment. How is that going to help me be a better person, reach my goals, live happier, live fuller? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's... I wanted to leave that there as just like a lingering question to see. What are your thoughts on that? I have very deep type thoughts on this. But what are your thoughts?
I think that's the wrong attitude, first of all, to have about the stinking present moment, or whatever you just said. Being present and doing the thing that you're doing is just part of the challenge. First of all, it is a challenge to just be in the present moment instead of being stuck in your future worries and being fixated. By learning to be present in the moment, everything becomes stronger, and I think everything becomes easier.
Truth. Yes. And so let me just dig into that for a second. The truth, and I'm saying this with capital T, truth. Your future is yet to be created. As beautiful as you can imagine it, it's not here yet. Your past is gone. So therefore, the only thing that actually has any life to it is this moment right here, where you are listening to me in this present moment. It's live. It's alive right now. This is where your truth is. This is where your insight is. This is where your feelings are. This is where your friends are and the people you love in your life. And if you can access this moment and learn to be in this moment, you're going to find a wellspring of emotion and wisdom. And it's the full taste of that wine. It's the full taste of that cheese. It's the lovely feeling of a soft sweater. By the way, I really like this sweater that you're wearing. We are the Purple Twins today. This was unintentional, by the way, for those of you who are like, did they play in there? No. We both just showed up in the studio and I was like, okay, well, here we go. This is what we're doing. So you've got to find a way to live in the moment while planning your future and honoring your past. So kind of bringing this all kind of full circle here, the wisest thing you can do, and it's 3 parts for your notes, is to honor the past while living in this beautiful moment and planning your future. You can't live in all 3. It's like, I don't know if from a quantum level, if you could even do that, but that's the real target we're aiming at. Is you've got to live here now, in the now, where life is actually happening to you. And while you're here, be making some bold plans for your amazing future. That's the magic. Now, I guess the real question is, well, that sounds great, Patrick and Katie. Lovely poetry. How do we do that? Because that sounds like not maybe the easiest magic trick to pull off. There's, like you said earlier, that's not where my brain is. My brain is I'm already in Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I'm already into 3 weeks from now. I'm already into the comments section of this video wondering if people are roasting us for doing this spiritual stuff wrong. You never know. So I'm just going to pivot to you on this, hit the ball back in your court. And again, for any of you guys watching now or the recorded video, what is the challenge with this, and what can we do to, practically speaking, live here and be pioneering and designing and creating our future?
Well, I think you need to practice doing it.
Oh, there it is. That P word.
You got to practice, because have you ever been trying to be in the present and your mind is darting? It's darting to what's happening in the future, or it's darting about this thing that happened. My son sometimes will say, "Oh, I'm a little worried about this thing that happened in first grade." I'm like, "What's happened?" But that can happen.
It's real. It happens. It happens to all of us.
So, but if we work on it, and if we work on being in the present moment and practice more, that's how we get better at it. And I know that sounds like, just practice, just whatever, just practice. But you can do this in a lot of things that you're doing. You can try to do a short meditation where you decide that you're going to sit here in the present moment. You're going to think about, what am I doing right now? I'm breathing, I'm sitting, and this is what I'm doing right now. My mind wanders, just bring it back to where we're sitting. I am not a meditation expert, but I like to practice, right? That's the best I can do. So just continue to practice it. And doing everything, even if it's something that sucks, like doing the dishes. Be there, do the dishes. Try it. You don't have to just be sitting in meditation. You can do something mundane as well and just practice doing it. Some people say everything is my meditation, making my bed, doing the dishes, vacuuming. Everything is my meditation practice.
So I'll leave you guys with this tip. This is, in all my years of study and practice and teaching on this topic, I'll leave you with this. The greatest thing that will always bring you back to this moment, and I've tried them all. I made them all. I've tried a lot. The greatest thing that you can have to bring you into this moment where life is, to connect you to your spirituality, to connect you to the people in the room and the moment with you, to connect you to the incredible imagination you have and the giftedness you have to create that amazing future yourself, is something you have with you all the time, and it never leaves you until you die, and that is your breath. It's with you all the time. So if you're willing to do this in this last minute of this video, here's just something we can do together. You want to do this with me? Let's just do it live? Okay. I want you guys to just dial in what's going on right here, okay? You're like a bird in a tree. We're always out there in flight, but we got to come back home to the nest, okay? I want you to come back home, bring it on in, and I want you to just notice the rising of your chest. Connect to that feeling. We're getting into the actual feeling of life here, okay? And as you rise and as you fall in your breath, I just want to ask you one simple question. Is there tension? Are you breathing easy? Are you breathing shallow? Here's the thing I want you to understand. It's super incredible and powerful for you. You ready? You lean in on this one? You with me? Your body's not going to lie to you. Your mind will lie to you. It will tell you all kinds of things. Your body will not lie to you. You can trust it. If you're tense, it will show you that you're tense. If you're open, it will show you that you're open. So when you're coming to these kinds of practices, you have to begin with that understanding. My mind can tell me all kinds of things. My body will always tell me the truth. Mm-hmm. So if you learn to trust your body, it will show you where pain is, where struggle is. It will show you where tension is, right? And what you're holding on to, maybe even where you're holding on to it if you want to get like super deep. But that's the beginning of being in the present moment is 1, the practice of bringing you there. And 2, and this one's probably equally as important, the practice is the willingness and desire to be here in this moment. You have to develop, as one of my great teachers, Pema Chodron, said, an appetite for life as it fundamentally is. You have to develop this appetite to want to connect to what is true and what is real for you and not run from it. Because I said to you many, many times, what you run from runs you. And when you stop running, it can't run you anymore. Mm-hmm. And that stopping, that pausing, that breathing, that is the practice that we're talking about to bring you in. So if you can learn to connect to this living moment, we believe is that it actually will serve you to find truth, to find your gifts, to find your strengths, which will then help you design that beautiful future that you know awaits you on the other end of your effort and your focus. And we are here to help you do that. So any further thoughts, any closing thoughts on this?
So you can't get it wrong. This is a practice, mm-hmm. and it's not about doing it right or doing it wrong. And I think that people who are experts, and I am obviously not an expert, they would say that this is a lifetime practice.
Truth.
You don't practice until you nail it. It's a lifetime practice.
100%.
So if you've heard anything on this podcast, or whatever we're doing today on this podcast, if you've heard anything on this live video stream today, and it seems like a little overwhelming, just take a little taste of it. Just take a little step. Do one thing. Try it out. And just know there's no perfection. And even if there was perfection, you're never going to get there. No one's ever going to meet the standard of perfection. So just take a little practice. Take a little step.
And we're just dropping some truth bombs on today's episode. We had our coffee. We're ready. All right. Listen, thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of The Pursuit Sunday Sit-Down Edition. We look forward to seeing you guys in the next show. But until we do, may the fire within lead to happiest heights.
And the road you travel be lined with
We're working on it. You guys know it already. We're working on her.
My mind was like a blank page.
It's because you weren't in a living moment.
I guess not. I was worried about that. I forgot the line.
Perfectly described. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one.